Okay, let me set the scene for you. It's August 24th, 1744. You're sitting inside St. Mary's Church at the University of Oxford. The air is just thick with tradition, academic pride. A man, John Wesley, steps up to the pulpit, and what he's about to say, well, it's going to be so confrontational, so sharp, that he's basically going to get himself banned from ever preaching there again. So let's get right into what happened.
At the core of his whole sermon, and really his entire life's work, is this one timeless question. Is your belief just about the words you say, or is it about your actions? What does your faith actually look like in your day-to-day life? It's a question that honestly hits just as hard today as it did almost 300 years ago.
And wow, the reaction was immediate, and it was fierce. See, Wesley wasn't just offering some, new theological opinion. He was holding up a mirror to one of the most powerful institutions in all of England, and they did not like what they saw looking back at them. The fallout was so intense that people started whispering that he'd gone mad.
So what on earth did he say that caused such an uproar? Well, he wasn't trying to invent some new kind of religion, not at all. He was trying to get back to what he saw as the original blueprint, something he called Scriptural Christianity.
And you can really see the firestorm he kicked up right here in his own words. The rumors about his sermon got so wild that he felt like he had no other choice but to publish the whole thing. He was basically saying, look, don't listen to the gossip. Read it for yourself. Let men of reason judge. He was putting his faith in logic over lies.
And this is the absolute core of his whole point. For Wesley, Christianity wasn't some checklist of doctrines you had to agree with. It wasn't just a system of ideas, no. It was a radical, deep-down transformation of a person's heart that absolutely had to show up in their life. It had to be lived out, not just thought about.
So here's how he breaks it down, and it's a really crucial distinction. He says, look, all that spectacular stuff, miracles, prophecies, speaking in tongues, those are what he calls extraordinary gifts. They were rare, even in the early days of the church. But then you have the essential fruits, love, joy, peace, gentleness. Wesley argues these aren't optional extras. They are the non-negotiable, must-have evidence of true faith, for everybody, always.
Okay, so from here, Wesley lays out this kind of three-stage model for how this all works, and it all starts small. It begins with the individual, like a single spark inside a person's heart.
And here's what that spark actually looks like on the inside. It's not just some vague, warm feeling. It's a deep, profound inner change. We're talking about a peace so complete it ends the fear of everything, even death. A joy that's, as he puts it, unspeakable. And maybe most radically of all, a love for God that just spills over into a love for all of humanity. And yeah, that includes your enemies. This person, he says, is just always a thirst to do good.
But here's the thing. A faith that powerful, that real, well, it can't stay hidden. Wesley argues that it's just destined to spread. That initial spark inevitably catches, and it grows into a flame. And he pulls on these classic images to make his point. A light isn't meant to be hidden. A city built on a hill can't be ignored. He's saying that a person living this transformed life is just like that. They naturally stand out. Their actions, their character, their love, it all becomes this public statement, whether they mean for it to or not. And of course, when a light starts shining that brightly, it's going to bother some people. Wesley points to 4 specific groups who got their feathers ruffled. The men of pleasure, who felt like this new lifestyle was a direct judgment on theirs. The men of reputation, who started losing the respect of the people. The men of trade, who literally worried it would be bad for business. And maybe the most telling, the men of religion, the establishment folks, who saw this passionate, messy, real faith as a huge threat to their neat and tidy version of it. And we're not talking about just a simple disagreement here. This opposition got serious fast. It hardened into actual persecution. People were publicly shamed, they lost their property, they were thrown into prison, and in the early days he's referencing, they were even killed for it.
But here's the incredible paradox Wesley points out with this quote. The persecution, it didn't stamp out the movement. Actually, it did the exact opposite. It backfired. The courage of those who died for their beliefs became the movement's most powerful advertisement. Their death, he says, found a voice, and it spoke louder than ever.
All right, so we've gone from the initial spark in one person to a spreading flame of a community. Now we get to the third and final stage of Wesley's vision, a conquering blaze that covers the whole world. He paints this incredible picture of what would happen if this scriptural Christianity truly won. And honestly, it's a picture of total utopia. Nations literally turn their swords into farming tools.
War just stops. All the things we struggle with, oppression, injustice, corruption, they're just gone. Society is completely rebuilt on a foundation of peace and righteousness. Everybody loves their neighbor as themselves. This is the grand vision. This is the perfect ideal he has just spent his entire sermon carefully building up.
And then, just as he's painted this beautiful, perfect picture, he does something brilliant. The whole sermon pivots. He takes that ideal he just built and turns it into a mirror, and he holds it right up to the faces of everyone sitting there in that church.
And then he asks this simple but absolutely devastating question. Where does this Christianity exist now? I mean, you can just imagine the dead silence in the room. It's a rhetorical bomb. He's not asking about some faraway place. He's asking about England. He's asking about them. And the implied answer hangs in the air. It doesn't exist anywhere.
Then he zooms in. He brings the focus from the whole world to the nation and then right down to the very city he's standing in. He asks, is this city a Christian city? Are we, this community of scholars and students, are we filled with the Holy Ghost? He makes it intensely personal.
And at this point, nobody is safe. He goes down the list, systematically calling out the entire power structure of the university. He challenges the rulers, asking if they actually reflect God's love. He asks the educators if their teaching leads to anything more than intellectual pride. He accuses the college fellows of being lazy and proud. He even calls out the students for wasting their time, their money, and their souls. It was a complete and total takedown of their self-reception. And yeah, you can see why they never asked him to preach there again.
Which, of course, brings it all back to us. Back in 1744, Wesley used this powerful ideal of scriptural Christianity as a mirror to challenge the world around him. So it kind of forces us to ask, right? What are the ideals that challenge our world today? Ideals of justice or equality or integrity. What happens when we hold that mirror up to our own society, our institutions, even just to ourselves? What do we see looking back?